morning, everyone. Welcome to the, what is the date? I had the agenda here. July 8th meeting of the School Building Committee. Here it is. Apologies. All right, I'm going to start with a roll call attendance. Ken Aries.
Here.
Brian Baer.
Here.
Allison Borchers.
Here.
Chris Coleman.
Here.
John Cummings.
Here.
Charlie Donahue.
Here.
Pam Dukeman.
Here.
Mary Kate Ferreira.
Here.
Jen Flanders.
Here.
Abby Hanscom.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Lemma Jean-Baptiste.
Here.
Josepha Jowdy.
Here.
Carol Lewis.
Here.
Michelle Miller. I didn't see Michelle. Tony Mullen.
Here.
Emily Parks.
Here.
Amanda can't make it today. And Mike Walsh.
Last as always. Yes, I am.
Last as always, Mike. Most important. All right. I would, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit of a mess today. I would like to recognize the live stream that's available online at www.westwood.k12.ma.us/live to provide real-time public access to the activities of the School Building Committee in accordance with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is also being recorded for later broadcast on Westwood Media Center's platforms. And as always, we thank Connor and his colleagues for all of their hard work and informing our community of all the goings on. All right, moving into the chair report. I just wanted to give a sort of a very high level update of our schedule. As you know, we are in design development. And I think as we have been discussing, due to the changes in the environment and economic environment, I should say, with respect to contractors and materials and supplies, meaning costs have been going up exponentially, the team actually decided to do a cost estimate when we're at 50% of design development. So I think we are submitting that at the end of July. And we expect that cost estimate back in the early, we're submitting it sort of mid to end July. We expect it back by the end of July. And at that time, we may have to go back to our value engineering exercise, depending on what that cost estimate comes in at, because as you know, we need to stay at or below budget. So if we need to do that, we may need some additional subcommittee meetings between July 27th and August 4th. Clearly, these will be virtual, so even if you're on vacation, you can participate. Specifically, we will probably need an aesthetics and design working group meeting and a site committee meeting. This is what we anticipate. This is all subject to the results of that cost estimate coming in. So I just wanted to let people be aware of that and potentially look for emails from us about that. The other thing I wanted to mention about the aesthetics design group is if any additional people are interested in joining it, we'd love to have more members. I think that this is like the fun stuff, right? This is what the inside of the building looks like. And so it's a great working group to be on. I think it's also important because of that, because this is what will be front facing the kids and the teachers and the parents every single day, that we have as many voices as possible. So we have some great members on that working group, but I would love to have more opinions and get more of a consensus from this group as we move forward. So if you have the time, it's about an hour. Yep. Did someone say something? No? Okay. If you have the time, about an hour, please consider joining that working group. Just drop me an email or shoot me a text and let me know. Again, we'd love to have just a few more voices on that, I think would be really helpful. So that's where we are in terms of the schedule. So, and one more important point is that if we have to do significant V, or if we have to do VE at all, this group, the SBC, may have to meet again on Thursday, August 5th for purposes of approving all of the recommendations of value engineering from those subcommittees and working groups, because in order to submit the design development for 100% cost estimate and to say this is really what the project is, we feel it's really important that the entire committee come together, hear the value engineering recommendations of the working groups and approve those or not approve them. This is similar to the process we did last time. Last time we had a little bit more time, clearly. And again, this is all subject to what we get back from the cost estimator. If he comes back and he says you guys are right on target, then we probably don't need to have these extra meetings. But if he comes back and says, or she comes back and says, due to the rising costs, you do have to do, some more value engineering, then we will need to have these meetings. So I wanted to get those on everybody's radar. Again, we'd schedule working group subcommittee meetings between July 27th and August 4th, and then hopefully have a virtual SBC meeting on Thursday, August 5th. And hopefully everybody can make that if we need to have it. So are there any questions? No. Okay, great. One other thing I wanted to mention, as I sort of alluded to in the intro, Governor Baker has extended this emergency COVID-19 measures that were adopted during the state of emergency. Specifically, he and the legislature have allowed virtual meetings to continue through April of 2022, I believe. And I was thinking that for a group this size, unless anybody objects, I think we should continue to meet virtually. I just think it's easier for people. I also think the format has been working for us. I feel like we are able to have robust discussions, even though we are virtual. I don't know if the architects, we may need to have some in-person meetings, because there may be, I just thought of looking at Rob, there may be some, things we actually need to see in person and touch and feel and walk around for purposes. But I think unless we have any sort of special reason, I was thinking of continuing these virtually, just because of the size of the group and that it has been working, unless anybody feels differently about that. No. Okay.
Maya, this is Chris.
Yep.
I know there was some confusion in many communities when the governor had something on June 15th. The extension ends on April 1st. Not
April.
So it really ends in the end of March.
Okay. Thank you for that. I was thinking it ended at the end of April, but thank you for that.
There's been a lot of confusion from a lot of people.
Yes.
Myself included, so I just wanted to share.
As is par for the course with COVID. Okay, so at least and through March 31st, to the extent possible, we will continue to try to meet virtually. And if we have to meet in person, it will be because of us. We all need to be there to look at something. So, all right, with that, I'm going to go on to the discussion items. The first item is an update on meetings. And I think Rob and John, I'm going to turn it over to you guys for this.
Great. Thanks, Maya. So first off, I apologize for not having this available in an early packet. The holidays and vacations and early meetings just couldn't put it all together enough to send out. However, it is really just a review. There's no decisions, so we'll kind of walk through where we're at and then answer any questions that people might have. So today, we're going to update you on our work plan and our progress on that, update on meetings that we have or have coming up. We'll give you a preview of where we're at on our playground concept that is in development. And we'll just touch on briefly proprietary items and what that is. So on the work plan, these are meetings that we've already had, held from May 26th to June 11th. Over the past month, we had a meeting with the aesthetics subcommittee. We met with the Board of Health. We're reviewing this today with you guys. And then right after this, back to back at 9 o'clock, we've got a building systems subcommittee meeting where we're going to review the infrastructure elements. And then upcoming, we've got a meeting with DPW, Police, Fire Department, Building Inspector. We've got an aesthetic subcommittee meeting on the 22nd of July. And then in August, we're planning to submit a progress set for the land use committee to do a peer review. Not permitting yet, but just a peer review, early review of the drawings. We are planning to submit 100% DD set for cost estimators in August, and what Maya was talking about is a 50% set that we would submit in July. But our 100% set is planning to go out in August. And then in September is the SBC meeting where you guys would authorize the DD submission to MSBA. So first up is the aesthetics subcommittee. I'm just going to kind of run through these very quickly. But what we reviewed was, the general kind of look and feel of the building is planning to be this sort of very welcoming, warm tone, neutral tone atmosphere, integrating some elements of maybe some abstract ways of light filtering through the building, identifying some special spaces, again, neutral, easy to clean materials. So what we reviewed were three focus areas. One is the main entry lobby, living room space. The other is the gallery, and then the extended learning area. So this is a view coming in the main entrance. This is what we're calling this sort of living room space. It's kind of a welcoming area for visitors, but it's also an alternate place for students to have lunch or to meet with teachers to go over things. It's really a multi-use space. So a couple ideas that we presented was bringing some sort of focus to a couple of these areas, and by introducing the sort of abstract tree component, having some light filter through these ceiling panel elements in addition to the skylights that are planned. And so some of the feedback that we got was, we like the abstract tree idea, but don't want dust and other things to collect on the top of this. This is getting a little bit funky over here. Let's keep it a little bit more simple. And so we're progressing in that avenue. This gives you an idea of some of this sort of light filtering elements that I was just talking about. These are some of the neutral colors and materials that we're thinking about. Still a long ways off from selecting colors at this point, but just kind of giving an initial idea of where we're headed.
Just to interrupt here, Rob, you have to ignore the pink.
Yes.
Because that was not one of the, that was something we made, is that pink is not going to stay.
Right. These are just initial concepts, and like I said, there's a lot of discussion yet to have. But so this is a view towards the administration area. The welcoming desk. Again, these would be extended up further up to the ceiling, so there's no area up above them. But this idea of maybe having some interesting light fixtures to, again, going with this, trying to bring in this theme of the school in the woods, some natural elements integrated into specific aspects. We're likely not going to be holding on to these circles here, but the idea is we may look for ways to integrate these at very few locations, but really to highlight certain special spaces. And one idea with the chair rails is that when we're talking about wayfinding, is to provide a drop, let's say, in the chair rail that would identify that there's a door opening there. So also trying to integrate things for students with disabilities and introducing a way for people to visually and by touch recognize that there's a change. We also talked about introducing some sort of a product to use on the wall on the wainscot to protect the wall. We talked about that some past projects we've used tile. Really, in this project, we're proposing to use linoleum, and Chin has expressed some experience in that in other schools. So there was some discussion about visiting some other schools to see how that looks and feels. But really, that's the direction we're headed, and it's an inexpensive approach to providing some wall protection. So moving on to the gallery stair, which is over here. Again, this idea of introducing some wood to give this warmth, in our minds, we were looking at this sort of like as a bridge, like if you're walking through the woods and there's a wooden bridge that comes across. And so, again, introducing some wood and some wayfinding elements, going away from the abstract elements here and keeping it a little bit more simple. We also talked about guardrails and what those might be. One idea was that we introduced is using this perforated metal. So it's very solid, but it's resistant to anyone being able to latch up, put their foot on or climb or anything like that. It's very resistant to all of that, but it still allows for this transparency and a nice look and feel. So after some discussion with that, there was consensus that we really wanted to go towards the perforated mesh. As you can see from this image and this image here, that there is some transparency through there, provides a nice solid element for a guardrail component. In the extended learning area, we this is a sketch looking towards the exterior wall where there's all this glass. So just wanted to, again, give an idea of what we were thinking, of highlighting maybe certain areas with a wood slat type ceiling to kind of create this sort of special zone or feel around a certain area. In this instance, this is the science and kind of wet project space in the extended learning area. So it might have this wood slat ceiling to kind of define that space a little bit. Having this sort of introducing some curves in here. We've got a very sort of rectilinear type building. I'm wanting to introduce some curves in a few different areas to kind of soften things up as we go through the spaces. In summary, there was agreement on the overall direction with the warmth of the wood and the modern neutral tones. Liked the abstract tree, but simplify it. Revise the low ceiling slats so that they're not collecting anything on top. In favor of the linoleum wainscoting. Preferred the perforated metal guards, but not both metal and glass. Stick to one. And we've made arrangements to get samples of the Flotex. I didn't mention, but it's a kind of a cross between a carpet and a resilient flooring. You might see it typically in like an airport, but it's a very fine, tight pile of this floor tile. So it kind of looks and feels like carpet, but it gets maintained like a resilient flooring. So you can scrub it, and wash it if needed very easily. So we're sending samples of that in linoleum over to Ken to take a look at. Moving on to the Sustainability Subcommittee, we met and kind of went through the whole LEED certification process and the scorecard. We also talked a little bit about the electric vehicle charging stations, whether it was of interest to do the demand response program enrollment, which it wasn't, didn't really apply to us, and then briefly talked about renewable energy. So the summary of that was that we're tracking LEED version 4 Silver. We should be submitting a design phase application soon. Everyone continues to be in agreement that the LEED points are not as important as achieving the energy efficiency. We currently have 4 parking spaces for the electric vehicle charging, and we should look at providing empty conduit to facilitate adding additional spaces in the future, anticipating that in the future there will likely be more electric vehicle charging spaces, but we didn't want to limit the number of spaces in the immediate future. Compass will be reviewing Eversource incentives for electric vehicle charging, for example, versus MSBA reimbursement. Make sure that there's no issue there, and then as far as the photovoltaic panels, those will likely go through a power purchasing agreement process, but no action is going to be taken until project funding is authorized and move on to the next phase. So a preview of the building systems meeting that we're going to have right after this with the building systems subcommittee, really just providing an overview of the systems, geothermal, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection technology, answer any questions. Really the intent behind this is just to provide an overview and provide an opportunity for the committee to answer or to ask questions and for our engineering team to answer. Summarizing the user group meetings, we've met with all the representatives from the different grade levels, music, art, library, coaches, speech, WABA focus. Met with some students. I think we highlighted that at the last school building committee meeting. Principals, district leadership, 8 separate days, back-to-back meetings, and it was extremely helpful for us. We also had set up a Google Classroom and allowed all teachers and faculty from multiple schools to provide feedback on our design and provide some additional input. So we've taken all of that information and we're making the revisions to the plans accordingly. A few of the highlights are that like in the classrooms, for example, the vast majority of teachers like the idea of having a little bit more wall space to have like a lower shelving unit because of the configuration of the room and the amount of daylight and the sliding glass door transition to the ELA. There isn't as much wall space. So one thing that we did is raise up the window height for the smaller windows, not the big one, but the smaller windows, just to allow for a little bit more lower wall space. We added, there's a lot of discussion about the need for additional space for speech and language. So after some discussions with district leadership, we added a speech and language room and relocated the ALL room. Made one of the teachers' workroom a little bit smaller to accommodate that, but it all works out really well. We had presented 2 options for the coaches suite, and after a number of meetings reviewing each of those, came to a final conclusion and selected one of those. And then we've been modifying the library layout. It's still in development, but we're getting closer to an updated concept. So making some progress on that as well. Moving on to the playground. So this is something that we've been working on and tweaking and fine tuning. Our initial vision, initial passes at this was really wanting to make this a much larger area, but keeping everybody in track in terms of we've got to stay within the budget that we have allocated, and so the idea on this is, as it always has been, is to create these two playground structural areas. Right, one is for the younger students at K1, and then having another area for grades 2 to 5. The K1 area would be totally enclosed with gates, so that you've got the little guys that are contained a little bit. There's an accessible route path that kind of meanders up to that. There's also a straightaway path leading out from the cafeteria and from the exterior doors here that lead up to the larger play structure. There's an integrated ramp and as well as stairs to get up here. There's about a 6-foot height difference between the access road out here, which is also doubles as a hard surface playscape. So we initially had a number of levels up here trying to work with the landscape, but in the end we decided that it made sense to with the visibility concerns to lower that down so it's all on one level. Teachers down here can see straight across and see who's up there. There's also a middle space here designed for teachers or parents, so they can view into both playground spaces, hard surface basketball. This is all pavement in this area, and then a larger lawn play area. A lot of the students really, some of their feedback was, we would like a place to run around and kick the ball around. So I've indicated some sizes here. So this is roughly 85 by 125. This is really for John, because I know he wanted me to add some of the some dimensions and stuff in here. So just to give you a sense of that, this is about 3,000 square feet, and this is roughly about 5,000 square feet. So if you think about, this is about the size of say 3 classroom sizes. This is about 5 classrooms. And then we've also, some of the feedback was to integrate some swings and maybe a slide. So we've added this sort of climbing element here. So, in addition to students going up with the ramp or the stairs, you can also climb up this and go up to this upper area and then slide down. And so, there's a variety of elements and spaces here to allow students to explore. Swings was a popular item that we heard from, so we've integrated that. Because these are ads that weren't accounted for in our earlier cost estimate, we're going to have these priced separately, just so that we can see, what the ad is for that. We've got some plantings here to kind of block somewhat a little bit of the view, or provide a little bit of a buffer from the view from these classrooms. There's also another buffer here between this lawn area and the service drive. But this also maintains the view out from the cafeteria to be as natural as possible. So locating these up on this upper level and off to the side, and also maintains the views out from the extended learning areas as well. That was also an important piece for locating these elements where we located them. We also know from our survey that there's a rock outcropping located up here, and so we're looking to obviously keep that and integrate that as a visual element, but not part of the play area. And then up here, we've just kind of dashed in potential future playground expansion if the school district is interested in additional play structures or expanding at some point. There's additional area up there that could be used for that. So I'll stop there for a minute and just see if anybody has any questions or comments or feedback on this. So where this is at, this is that we're planning to meet with the site and outdoor design subcommittee that Mia was talking about, as well as any other entities that would like to have a say in this, so that we can review that with them. But we needed to put this together in order to have a price placeholder for the 50% set. So wanted this opportunity to just kind of share this with you.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments, questions on
I
any
had
of the stuff we've seen?
Question. I was just curious about the accessibility of the playground components, or perhaps that's in this next stage of design.
Yes, we are planning to integrate accessible playground elements throughout. But yes, that'll be discussed in more detail with the subgroup.
Thank you.
What about any of the things we've seen, including interior finishes? Now it would be a great time to hear from people on what we saw there. As Rob mentioned, we did give feedback about those wood structures, those tree thingies, that we thought those were a little over designed and potential dust and children hanging collectors. And I think that Doran Whittier is going back and looking at that. But what are other people thinking?
Yeah, this is Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, I think it looks really nice. The only question I have is regarding, in one of the slides, there was a lot of glass, like a wall of glass. I don't know if it was in a classroom, and there was some skylights. I was just wondering, from a climate control standpoint, what are your thoughts on that? We've had some experience in the library with the skylights creating problems when it comes to heat, especially when you have, and then also trying to maintain the temperature in that space. Previous community I worked in, we had a roof of glass and a side of glass, and that corridor could never be maintained for the temperature that we were trying to achieve. I was just curious, are you putting any type of tint on the glass or something with the HVAC system that's going to be able to adjust for that?
Yeah, so the skylights that we are planning to design are essentially like a triple pane type polycarbonate lens. So it's a high energy efficient skylight. We haven't gotten to this level of detail, but we have the ability to have that be translucent or transparent. And so the translucent ones have a reduced solar heat gain as well. But the skylights aren't massive. These are 4 feet by 4 feet each, and there's a number of them. But we're taking all of that into consideration in the design of the HVAC system as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob, this is John. I have a question. Were you able to address the hole in the second floor to the first floor? The open floor plan, the hole.
Yeah, so we're looking at that right now, looking at the different options for that. Planning to discuss that at our upcoming working group. There's a number of options. One is raising up the guardrail height to a significant height to address concerns that people might have. There's another option is fully enclosing it with glass, and then another option is to infill the opening altogether. And then there are ramifications associated with that in terms of MSBA and square footage. And so we're looking at an option of reducing the size of the extended learning areas to compensate for trying not to add space to the building. So there's a number of options that we're planning to lay out for the working group when they meet next week, and we'll be reviewing those.
John, this is Emily. In the meantime, I have some contact information for some schools that have some similar design elements, and I'm making some calls to talk to people about their experience with them. And Abby and I are going out to see some of the spaces also. So we're just kind of doing that research so that we have that in mind as we consider the different options that might be available.
Cool. You guys are so thorough.
We try.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
I
I have a
can't-
question. Yeah, I have
Oh,
a
go
question on the playground. So I guess one question, my first question, Rob, is how does the square footage of the playground, how does it compare to other schools you built, kind of, student to square footage in the playgrounds? I'm just a little worried that you might have kids on top of each other. And the second one is a question, is there any potential to kind of shift the playground a little bit further up towards the expansion and make the lawn area bigger? Because the lawn area, you couldn't even run a kickball game. I don't think it'd be even big enough for that. So that's just that's one question, one comment.
Yeah, so if you look at the total area altogether, there's a variety of different places for students to meet, whether it's during recess or whatnot. So if you look at the overall area of this whole entire piece, it's about 70,000 square feet. And so, if you think about students meeting on picnic tables or the swings or the different play structure areas or the basketball court or the foursquare or the lawn area, there's actually quite a big area. And, each school is a little bit different. I mean, a lot of it is dictated by how much land is available, at each school site and how much they want to spend. It's really those two things, right? So,
Rob,
yes.
Did you just say that this is 70? I just want to clarify that you just said 70,000 square feet, right?
This whole entire area here.
Yeah. So that's like 1 3/4 acres of land. Just
How big, but to Tony's point, how big is that lawn play area itself? Would it be big enough for a kickball game or a soccer game?
It's roughly 85 feet by 125 feet currently shown. And one of the reasons why we haven't pushed it further is, I don't know if you can see, but all of the contours right here, it still goes up in this location. So, we're basically going into ledge into this area. There's this big rock outcropping here. So that's one of the reasons why we just haven't pushed it out further that way. And then it drops down, here as well. So this was sort of a flat area here that made sense for us to add it here. We can certainly, if there's money and desire, we can certainly dig, and flatten out this whole area. Again, we're also trying to stay in keeping with the budget that we have.
Right. Okay.
85 by 125. That's bigger than most gyms.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's the size of a very large gym.
Okay.
But it's a lot smaller than a soccer field. It's a lot smaller than a standard, like 7. Anyway, I just asked the question, but if you can't do a ledge, I guess the other question is, maybe there's ledge on the other side where that future expansion, could you put the field there? And now, again, leaving aside costs, I know the cost is a component.
Yeah, and that's why we indicated here as possible future playground expansion. I mean anything's possible with money, right?
Yeah.
A 6v6 soccer field is much smaller than a regular size soccer field, and that's for elementary kids. How big is that?
How big is a 6v6?
Yeah, it's like a third of a regular football field or like a soccer field.
I'd have to look it up. I don't have that off the top of my head.
But I think that's roughly the size of the area you have there.
Oh,
It looks
okay.
like, I just looked it up really quick. It looks like, well, it's in yards, 45 to 60 yards in length and 35 to 45 yards in width.
Yeah, so 100 by 60.
So it's in the ballpark. It's not quite exactly, but it's in.
Yeah.
It's in the ballpark.
Yeah, I think this lawn area looks a lot bigger than it looks on this field. Is a lot bigger than it looks on the field, on the design, but.
Well, look how small the classrooms are on the comparatively.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the whole wing.
yeah.
Classroom is sort of between 25 and 30 feet long.
Okay.
At nearly 2 acres of land, there are schools in the more urban area that you build a 400 student elementary school on this sized land, and just for comparison.
Okay, great. Tony, do you have anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, I think Mike
I
has his
have-
hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so my question is this, and I set the text to Chris Coleman, just so you know, but, you know, I'm one for open design, but I worry about safety concerns, you know, with such an open design, especially, you know, coming in the lobby. I'm just wondering if I'm the only one with that concern. I know we live in a tiny town, but, you know, history will dictate that's, you know, where people are more prone to have safety concerns. And I'm wondering if I'm just the only one, and that's okay if I am.
Mike,
So,
do you mean the coming into the lobby and having it be open to the cafeteria?
Yes, yeah, that would be the first place. Yeah, it's probably the most, I would say, most dangerous, right? Because you have to get farther into the school before anything else happens. But yes, such a wide open design. Where is the safety concern that we spend so much money on, you know, looking going forward? It seems to be that we've thrown that out somehow in this design.
Rob, can you go back to the lobby slide?
yeah.
So there is a two-step process to get into the school. There's a vestibule first before you even enter the school that's locked, that you need to be buzzed through. So you're buzzed into that first vestibule. You sort of
Right.
say who you are, and then you're buzzed into the main lobby. And I
Right.
think
So
go ahead.
I was sorry to interrupt. Yeah. I was just going to say there's a video intercom button outside of this door or this door. These doors would have this security laminated glass, right? This, and that's actually part of the next discussion is school guard glass. It is resisting forced entry. Based on the manufacturer's tests that they've done, someone can't get through these doors by battering it with a hammer or a bat or bricks like 10 or 12 minutes. You cannot get through there. Once they get buzzed in here, they, as Maya said, there's a security window here where they would give their credentials to the administrator there, and then they could either get buzzed into the main office here or get buzzed into the building. These doors are also, right now, they are currently planned as being bullet resistant. And so with this two-step process and containment, that's what we've integrated into the project. Yeah, and the idea is that, as throughout the design, is that we really want the building to be welcoming and inviting and transparent for students, for teachers to be able to see, and as well as police officials as well. If they're coming into the building, they can see what's happening immediately. And so the overarching idea of crime prevention is to have that sort of visibility on a daily basis to prevent bullying and also to provide a welcoming atmosphere. But I just wanted to explain, as Maya was just talking about, that there is this two-step process to get into the building.
So Maya, this is Chris. Just a suggestion, if you haven't already done it, whatever the school safety protocols are, it may be helpful prior to the special town meeting to walk through this scenario in the event there are additional questions at town meeting. So I don't know what your shelter in place, what your lockdown measures are for each school, but if there is a safety question being asked, it may be helpful to just walk through that tabletop.
Yeah, so we typically, and Emily can speak to this as well, but we typically do not do that in public because those kinds of, that kind of information, we don't speak to in public for security reasons, for safety reasons. What I am able to say, what we are able to say is that we have a security consultant on board with this design, and we have consulted from the start with Chief Silva and his team with this design. So, and I think, as Rob mentioned, we have a meeting with them next week, I believe. So I think that this design has been vetted for security purposes specifically, and is designed according to sort of the current standards for security purposes. And I think that's what we could say at town meeting, and hopefully people will be comfortable with that. We can't really run through scenarios for the reasons I gave before. Emily, I don't know if you have anything further to add.
No, I mean, we could certainly talk in some general terms about some of our protocols, but I do think what you said, Maya, is probably more on point, that we have a security consultant, that we've been working with police and fire, that we're vetting the design through people who have an expertise in this area. And I also think that what Rob said is important too, that when we're thinking about the security and safety in the building, I mean, obviously we're thinking about like the worst case scenario, an active shooter kind of situation, but on a day-to-day basis, this ability to supervise, to kind of have a sense of what's going on in the building, for everyone to have, kids and adults to have the sense that people are sort of seen and known. That's ultimately what helps to create a safe climate that I think is really preventative in terms of concerns about school violence.
Can I ask another question? Do we have any, I don't know, like ballards in front of the main entrance, to prevent vehicle penetration?
Yes, integrated into our entry plaza. I'm not showing that today, but integrated into the entry plaza area. We are looking at elements that would prevent a vehicle from getting past the sidewalk, the drop-off sidewalk. And so our intention is to have a combination of some natural features and some, maybe whether it's seating or blocks of some sort, that it doesn't look like, oh, hey, there's a barrier here. It's more of an integrated element into the design that naturally does that.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one more slide to just touch on. Is there anything else on anything else that I've shown? Does anybody have any other comments or questions? Okay. Let me see if I can.
Rob, we are also at 8:50, so we do have need to wrap it up quickly.
Like I said, I just have one slide. So I mentioned briefly the thermal insulation. So we've got a number of proprietary items, and this is really just to kind of give you a heads up. So on projects, on public bid projects, we are required to list 3 manufacturers and allow for equivalent submissions of items or materials. Sometimes there are certain items that we can't find 3 manufacturers. They're just not out there that make an equivalent type of product for a number of different reasons, whether it's for how it's manufactured or how it's installed, or the specific product that makes the most sense for the town or the school district, because that's what they're doing in other schools in the district. There's a number of different reasons. And so these are the products that I've kind of floated up to the top. We're still reviewing them. We're planning to review them with a subgroup in the coming weeks and months. And but we will need, in order for along with the design development submission to the MSBA, we will need a vote by the school building committee to accept or reject any proprietary listed items. And also, just because they're listed as proprietary doesn't mean that they won't have competition. In many cases, there are multiple vendors that can obtain prices and provide competitive bids on a particular item. So just in overview, we're looking at a thermal insulation product because of the thickness of the insulation or the R value of insulation. We're looking at a product that we'd like to use that will actually save the product some money. Light diffusing glazing used at the gym. The security laminated glazing, as I mentioned, the school guard glass at the exterior entrances. Emergency key box, which is used by the fire department. And then the IT, there are some network switches and wireless access points, and the security alarm system. And so, and we just met with the IT folks earlier in the week and reviewed those items with them.
Rob, you faded out completely. There we go. You're back.
They're planning to do a district-wide upgrade in their IT and security. Something that.
Rob, you're actually going in and out.
So the plan is to do a district-wide upgrade. So this will continue to be reviewed with the school district.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd, for the save.
There is something that happens, I think, when other people are not on mute. For some reason, with my mic, it just doesn't pick up.
Yeah.
That's it. If anybody else has any other questions?
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Again, I'm going to push to join the aesthetics working group. If you have thoughts on what you saw on the inside, just shoot me an email and you can join our next, I think we have a meeting Thursday, July 22nd at 10:30, virtual. Important stuff. Okay, so hearing no more discussion, I'm going to move on to action items. The first action item is vote to approve the meeting minutes of June 4th, 2021. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Can I get a- Any discussion? No? Okay, Ken?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Mary Kate? I think we may have lost Mary Kate. Jen?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Lemma?
Yes.
Josepha?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion is carried. Okay, last action item is vote to approve payment of invoices totaling $297,258.51 for the period ending June 30th, 2021. As
Motion
recommended
approved.
by Compass. This is just to break it down. Compass management invoice for $20,000 and Doran Whittier invoice for $277,258.51.
Motion to approve.
Great.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Ken?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Lemma?
Yes.
Josepha?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion is carried. Okay, is there any new business that anyone wants to raise at this time? Nope, hearing none. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. No discussion. Ken,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Abby,
Yes.
Lemma,
Yes.
Josepha,
Yes.
Carol. Carol,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I am a yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time, especially during the summer. And I hope everyone enjoys this weather, whatever it is.
Thank you.
I'll see you next time. Thank you.